Right. So we got a really fascinating piece on New Delhi,
Yeah.
India's capital city.
Hmm.
And that's exactly where we are going today with this deep dive.
Right.
Our mission is to use this material that you sent us to uncover all these really cool and interesting things about New Delhi.
Absolutely.
Things that, maybe you didn't know before, or that even if you've been there,
Right.
you might learn something new.
Definitely.
So think of this like a little expedition into this super dynamic capital city.
I love that.
We'll be looking at its ancient roots and all the way up to the present day
Right.
to understand what makes New Delhi so special.
Yeah, I think the material you provided does a really good job of capturing that sort of comprehensive picture.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting is this contrast between the ancient history of the city
Right.
and the fact that New Delhi itself is actually relatively new.
Yeah.
It's like all these different stories kind of layered on top of each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Delhi's history stretches back over 2,000 years, which is just mind-boggling.
It is.
And then on top of that, you have New Delhi, which was like dreamed up and built by the British architects Lutyens and Baker in the early 1900s, and officially became the capital in 1931.
Yeah.
It's like you're experiencing two different time periods in one place.
Totally. And if you think about it in the context of colonial urban planning,
Yeah.
what they were doing is like trying to build a capital that would show everyone how powerful the British Empire was.
Yeah, it's so evident in those wide boulevards and the really grand colonial architecture.
Absolutely.
That's not just an aesthetic choice. It's like a deliberate statement.
Exactly.
Like they're literally trying to project a certain image. I can just imagine how impressive those grand avenues and meticulously planned green spaces must have been.
Yeah.
It's such a contrast to the older parts of Delhi, which feel more organic.
Right.
This planned grandeur, though, do you think it always worked in the way they intended?
That's a great question.
Did it actually inspire awe, or did it sometimes feel a bit disconnected from the rest of the city?
I think they definitely achieved the imposing look,
Yeah.
but cities are always evolving.
Right.
They're lived in and experienced by people.
Yeah.
It's not just about the design on paper.
Right.
So while the planned layout shaped New Delhi for sure, life found a way to kind of flow around it.
Yeah, it's that tension between the design and how people actually live and experience the city.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about this sense of grandeur in the city's design,
Yeah.
but let's talk about some of the iconic landmarks of New Delhi.
Right.
Like, you can't talk about the city without mentioning the India Gate. It's
Right.
just so powerful.
And it's dedicated to the Indian soldiers who died in World War I, which is really interesting when you think about it. Because
Yeah,
India was part of the British Empire at the time.
right.
So these soldiers were fighting in a war that wasn't really their own.
It's like a layer of historical irony, right?
Yeah, it really makes you think about sacrifice and what it means to be loyal to a country.
Absolutely. And then there's Rashtrapati Bhavan, the president's residence.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about colonial grandeur.
It's a fantastic example of what's called Indo-Saracenic architecture,
Okay.
which is basically a mix of British and Indian design elements.
Okay.
You see lots of domes and arches and these really intricate carvings.
Wow.
It's like a physical representation of how those cultures were blending at the time.
And it was originally built for the Viceroy of India.
Right.
So its existence also reflects this big shift in power
Absolutely.
from British rule to an independent India.
It's amazing how these buildings hold so much history.
They really do. Then there's the Qutub Minar, which is so old.
Oh, yeah.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the world's tallest brick minaret.
It
It
is.
dates back to the 12th century.
Can you imagine the craftsmanship involved in building something like that?
It's incredible to think they built something so tall without modern technology.
Right.
Like, how did they even do that?
It really speaks to the skill and ingenuity of the people who built it.
Yeah, totally. And it represents a period of Delhi's history that's even before the Mughal Empire. So it shows just how layered and complex the history of this city really is.
Absolutely. We also have to mention some of the more modern landmarks.
Oh, right.
Like
yeah.
the Lotus Temple
Yeah.
with its incredible petal-like design
It's such a beautiful and peaceful space.
and its roots in the Baha'i faith
Mhm.
emphasize the unity of all religions,
Yeah.
which is a really powerful message in a diverse city like New Delhi.
And then there's Humayun's tomb,
Ah, yes.
which was actually a major inspiration for the Taj Mahal.
It's considered one of the most important examples of Mughal architecture.
Wow.
It's like a precursor to the grand style that culminated in the Taj Mahal.
So it's like a key stepping stone in that architectural tradition.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about the architecture and the history. But as we know, New Delhi is so much more than that.
It is.
It's like this vibrant cultural melting pot.
You got it. People from all over India and the world have come together in New Delhi, creating this amazing mix of cultures.
Yeah, you see it in the everyday life of the city.
Absolutely.
And it feels like the festivals are where that diversity really explodes.
Right.
Diwali, Eid, Christmas, Guru, Purab. They're all celebrated with such passion and energy.
And what's really special is that it's not just individual communities celebrating.
Right.
Everyone kind of joins in.
Yeah, there's a sense of shared joy.
Exactly. It goes beyond religion and builds this feeling of community.
Then there's their Republic Day parade, which sounds like a massive spectacle.
Oh, it is.
It shows off India's military might and its incredible cultural heritage all at once.
It's a huge display of national pride and unity.
It brings together people from all the different states and cultures.
It really does. And if you think about how India was formed as a nation, these kinds of events are super important for creating a shared sense of identity.
That makes sense. Okay, now let's talk about the markets of New Delhi.
All right.
I want to start with Chandni Chowk.
Okay.
It's one of India's oldest and busiest markets. Imagine spices piled high, beautiful fabrics, jewelry being made right in front of you, and the smells of street food everywhere.
Sensory overload.
Right. It sounds amazing, but maybe a little overwhelming too.
It's like a maze of narrow lanes, each specializing in something different.
Wow.
It's a fantastic place to really experience the energy of Old Delhi.
Sounds like it. Then we have Connaught Place, which is the modern commercial heart of the city.
Yeah.
Branded stores, fancy restaurants. It's a whole different vibe.
It represents the more contemporary side of New Delhi.
Right.
It's a major hub for business and, modern consumer culture.
Yeah, and it has that distinctive circular layout,
Right.
which comes from its colonial design. Then there's Sarojini Nagar Market for bargain hunters.
Oh, yeah?
And Dilli Haat, where you can find handicrafts and artisan goods from all over India.
Dilli Haat is great because it's like a curated experience of India's diverse crafts and food.
All right.
All in one place.
Yeah, you could spend days just exploring the markets.
Easily.
All that shopping is bound to make you hungry. Of course.
And New Delhi is a food lover's paradise.
It is.
We have to start with street food, particularly chaat.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to be popular with everyone.
It's iconic. You get all these different flavors and textures.
Like what?
Sweet, sour, spicy, crunchy.
Wow.
All in one bite.
This sounds amazing.
It really shows how creative Indian cuisine can be.
Then there's butter chicken, which originated in Delhi.
Did you know it was invented at the Moti Mahal restaurant in Old Delhi?
Really?
It's a dish that's become popular all over the world.
Yeah, it's a classic. And we can't forget about the paranthas from Parantha Wali Gali. Stuffed with all sorts of delicious fillings.
It's like an institution. That whole lane is dedicated to these stuffed flatbreads.
It sounds so good.
You can get traditional fillings like potato and paneer, or more modern ones.
For dessert, we have to mention jalebi and gulab jamun.
Oh yeah, classic Indian sweets, often served warm and drenched in syrup.
You can't visit India without trying them.
I agree.
Now, navigating a city as big and diverse as New Delhi might seem intimidating.
Right.
But luckily, the language situation isn't too bad.
Yeah. Hindi is the most widely spoken language.
Right.
But English is used a lot too, especially in business, education, and government.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of signs and official documents are in both Hindi and English.
Exactly. Which makes it much easier for visitors to get around.
It makes sense, considering how diverse India is linguistically.
Yeah. And it also reflects India's history with the English language.
Right.
And the fact that English is still really important in a globalized world.
Of course, no city is perfect.
True.
And New Delhi has its challenges, like traffic congestion and air pollution.
Yeah, those are major issues that a lot of big cities face.
Right.
Especially ones that are growing as fast as New Delhi.
It's a combination of the population density, the number of cars, and industrial activity.
Exactly.
It's complicated.
But it's good to know that the government is trying to address these problems.
Yeah, things like expanding the Delhi metro system.
Right.
And promoting eco-friendly policies.
Those are positive steps.
Yeah. The Delhi metro has really helped to reduce traffic congestion.
That makes sense. And a focus on eco-friendly policies shows that they're thinking about sustainability. So as we wrap up our deep dive on New Delhi, it's clear that it's a city of contrasts.
It is.
Ancient history alongside modern life, a mix of cultures, amazing food, and yeah, some challenges too.
You got it.
Like it says in the material, every corner has a story to tell.
It really does.
It's a place where you can see remnants of empires from centuries ago
Mm-hmm.
and also experience the energy of a modern global city.
Right.
We have the historical landmarks, the festivals, the markets, the food.
It's all part of what makes New Delhi so unique and fascinating.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Me too.
But hopefully you've learned a lot about what makes this capital city so special.
I hope so.
And maybe it's made you want to explore it even more.
Definitely.
So what do you think the future holds for New Delhi?
Oh, that's a good question.
What new stories will be added to its already rich history?
It's exciting to think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into New Delhi.
It was my pleasure.
It's a city that will definitely stay with you.
It will.